And how did the commission come about?
I met Jeff Kaner through writing for a trio that he played with, and he took a liking to this trio. And right in Philadelphia, we were done with the rehearsal. We were walking through Rittenhouse Square, and I said, you know, Jeff, I'll write you a concerto. And he goes, great. Right there in Rittenhouse Square. And so then he said, well, why don't you, stop by? So I went to his home, and he gave me some CDs of him playing. And I listened to him, and one thing led to another, led to another.
So when you wrote the concerto, you knew he'd be playing it?
Yes.
Because it's such marvelous virtuoso writing. Knowing that he would be playing must have influenced your thinking as you conceived the piece.
Absolutely. He's a first-rate player, as you know. And something amazing about Jeff. I'll tell you a little story. An error I wrote the flute out of range, like really out of range. Like not even Jeff could play this. It was like really, really, really high. We had a meeting once he learned his part, and he was playing it, and suddenly, and he gets up to this note, squeak, and I said, oh, Jeff, that's like 5 notes out of range. And he goes, yeah, but you wrote it. And I said, well, why did you tell me it was too high? And he said, well, if the composer wrote it, I'm going to play it. That's his attitude. His attitude is, I care about getting what's down there.
Do you think orchestrally, because one of the things I notice in this piece and much of your music is how expertly you get colors from the orchestra, and also how you scored for the orchestra to be not in the way of the soloist and keeping the soloist in the spotlight. And is that in your conception immediately too?
I do think orchestrally. When ideas come to me, they come orchestrated. However, working with a soloist is always double tricky, because you can have great ideas for colors in the orchestra, but it's so easy to cover a soloist, especially a flutist, anytime they're not playing high. So in fact, I showed the score to several conductor colleagues for their input, and I actually did weed away things before it actually got to you when you premiered it.
What other ideas were in your mind for this piece? There's such a range of emotion in the piece. Were there other extra musical or emotional thoughts behind the piece as you wrote it?
This piece was more of a concerto, if that makes sense, in that I was just working with the concept of a concerto. I wasn't thinking extra thoughts, but in this piece, every movement had an essence. One of the most obvious ones is the second movement, which is kind of like a drunken waltz. It's like a drunken dance. It's kind of fun. And it maintains that type of skipped beat, extra beat throughout. The third movement is very introspective and internal. And it makes me think very deeply about lots of stuff. When I was writing it, when I'm listening to it now, it has that potential, that power over me personally. The fourth movement is fast and pressing, and I don't let up. And it keeps going and going and going and going. Just when I think that I've reached it, I said, keep it going.
This was my first introduction to your music, and I was so exhilarated. And I just wanted to make mention that we have more of your music to come in the next couple of years. So we're very excited to get to meet you with this piece, too.
Thank you.